Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The New Normal with Lee and Chantelle.
Hello.
Hello. So, what are we doing today? What's going on?
Well, I was listening to Lex Freeman's podcast. There were a couple of things he said I thought was interesting. It could be nothing or it could be profound.
Okay.
So one of the things was when they were talking about aliens, and they named all the possibilities. And one thing he said I never thought of was he said maybe other species exist from other planets, but before their technology could be developed to the point where they could travel to Earth, they all kill themselves. Like they self-destruct. And that might be innately what's in all species. And that's why we don't see any aliens.
Well,
And
hold
that,
on. Back up. Like the technology?
not just the technology, but it's like in order to evolve, species gotta have competition. So they compete against each other.
Hmm.
And one day when they keep on progressing, one day they have technology enough to wipe out the whole species. There's always the one guy that's crazy enough to use the technology to wipe everybody out.
Oh, okay. That's what you mean.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one scenario. The other scenario is like what we're doing now is not all at once, but we're like slowly killing each other, quote unquote, because we're getting angrier and angrier on Twitter and on all the social medias, and then we're spreading more misinformation, and we're dumbing everything down. We're reprogramming everybody, and over time, it just it's gonna be the downfall of. And what they're saying is like it's not about if you're human or you're alien. All species have this commonality. That's why we are destined to not be able to go that far.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I wonder how long that will take, though, because it's been like how many centuries now that humans have been on Earth, or so they say. It's like documented.
Yeah, but we have a lot of like wars, right? We have people riding on horsebacks and conquering the world, and then we had World War I, World War II. But because when these horrific things happened back then, the technology wasn't enough to kill everybody. It was only enough to kill, I don't know, 30% of the people or something. But now if we have a World War III, it might kill everybody. And if it doesn't, we're gonna have World War IV. Right? It's
Okay, that's
destined
what
to
you mean
happen.
by technology.
Yeah. But then like, but more so than technology is what's inside of us. Is like innately we are programmed or destined to be self-destruct. And that's like, is there any way, anything we can do to change that destiny?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty
But
interesting.
do you think it's possible to destruct like all humanity? Do you think it's possible to go all out and say like, okay, at the end of this, nobody is going to be alive because they use the technology some way? Or not even technology, maybe it's like whatever it is, as a tools or as a means to like kill everyone.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to physically kill everyone too. uh, it's just like it's a Yo competition, just
What
like
competition?
Yo, like bad competition. Like they have
Ill.
ill, they have ill intentions,
Ill. Yes.
ill,
Okay.
ill. Anyways, yeah, just like how you have, I don't know, let's say sales, right? You have a sales team, and because of the competition between each other, it makes everybody's sales skills go up. But then once in a while there will be one bad apple that will ruin the whole thing. They
Hmm.
will backstab people, they will game the system, they will, whatever they do, they just but those people, you can always count on those people existing. There's no organization where you can be like, oh, we form the organization in a way that everybody here is positive. You can always count on these people to come along, and just by chance, someday someone will come along and do enough damage to the entire species to make it, like, not even, they don't even have to kill everybody. They just need to do enough damage to destroy the progress and make humans go back, in progress, and then humans won't be able to survive.
Yes and no. I think that's like, yeah, sure. There's always one bad apple, like anywhere. That's true. But also, I don't think necessarily that those people, the random few or random handful that are negative, is going to outweigh all the positive people. Like nowadays, I think that there are more people who really want to better themselves and come from a better place to impact society more than there are negative people who want to impact society negatively. Like I don't ever see that happening, that the negative could really take over everything and everyone, you know that they'll just quote rule the world.
Like, as an example, if we have a technology to modify disease, like, take COVID as an example. We don't know where it came from, but assuming someone can engineer disease like this, we have millions and millions of positive scientists and doctors who are trying to cure it, but then it only takes one person in their basement to engineer disease to damage humankind this much. And this is not even a severe disease.
Mm.
you know
It's sounding quite similar to something out there already.
yeah. And also there's another thing that was kind of scary I heard before, was people take progress for granted. They're like, oh, internet exists, so we got that down. And bioengineer exists, we got that down. We have doctors, we have whatever. But there's a lot of things, there's only a very small percentage of people know how to do. Like, for example, I don't know, let's say bioengineering. There's only maybe 1% of the population know how to do it. And if one day something were to happen that kill all of these 1%, at the same time, this technology will cease to exist.
Mm.
you know and
Technology will exist or not exist.
it will
Cease.
stop. Yeah, it will stop existing. Like, it
Oh.
will disappear. Like, you think, oh, let's say, for example, surgery, right? You're like, oh, surgery, we got that down, I don't need to worry about it, I just need to go to hospital and be able to get a surgery. But imagine one day something were to happen that killed every doctor that knows how to perform surgery all at once. Then the entire human species from that point on wouldn't know how to perform surgery anymore.
Do you think that's possible though, if the data is collected and we're moving towards a AI robotic, universe? Because at the end of the day, sure, let's say all the humans pass away for whatever cause, and they specialize in whatever they specialize. Don't you think that there's some backup database somewhere that AI can take over just performing a surgery, and that's why like this whole innovative future will maybe one day hopefully not backfire on humans? And or why that's like such a um, careful stance, or how Elon is approaching this human bot thing, because if it goes into the wrong hands, then it's over.
Also on top of that, it doesn't even have to be a human. Like, that's why Google keeps on creating more and more data centers around the world in case something were to happen in one place. But then there
Yeah,
could be
definitely.
something like a huge, gigantic earthquake or something that destroy all of Google's data center all at once. Then everything you can search on Google will disappear forever. There's nowhere to find it again. And it's not whether it will happen or not. It will happen for sure. It's just how soon it will happen and how prepared people will be. Because given enough time, everything will happen. It's just a chance. And now, but then because of that thinking, like there's no aliens that can progress enough to come to Earth because they all self-destruct. But that just got me thinking whether it's even possible. Like, is there a hard ceiling on how far species can evolve? And before, we all self-destruct, is there like anything we can do?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we don't know. That's why, like, hopefully we're on the positive side, hoping that nothing like that would ever happen.
Yeah. Okay. Then another thing they said I thought was interesting is he said before people were mostly general thinkers, and now people are more and more specialized. And he said this is one of the main reasons why there are people who believe in flat earth,
What?
because
What do you mean?
people are lacking this ability to assess basic, having basic logic and assess earth in a basic way, because they specialize in their thing so much and they're so ignorant in everything else.
Hmm.
Like back in the day, everybody knows how to, dig a ditch and work the water, how build a ship, like these basic things. Everybody knows a little bit about everything. But nowadays, all you get you get driven somewhere, and all you do is sit in front of a computer, do your job, and you leave. You don't have to think about any of these things that don't get you paid. And that's why there are people who believe in flat earth now. That's what he's saying. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's an interesting explanation. And I don't know if that's good or bad either. You know.
Well,
So
I think it depends on what's specialized, what one is specialized in. Because of course, I think people who are doing something who have more access to resources than another person, sure, like it makes sense that they're specialized. But for everyone else who is average, let's say, or not even average, but don't have the resources available to them, then it kind of makes sense to be more like horizontal per se. Like you learn about everything, but it's just surface. But then those who have different kind of, resource accessibility, they go deep into that because they have the means to.
yeah, that is true. But we have gone all the way to the other side now, and we can possibly go even further. And whether that's gonna be good or bad is unclear.
Further, as in learning deep into a subject matter or learning more about something surface level.
We're gonna become more and more specialized, and there's just going to be less and less people who are general thinkers. Where when you were saying, oh, like it makes sense for some people to be general thinkers and some other people to specialize. Back in the day, most people are general thinkers, but nowadays most people are specialized. And then it
Oh,
might become more and more people, and then more and more specialized.
yeah, because like life back then and the population, like there's only so much one's lifestyle can go. Like, but back then it was more like survival. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna think for myself, I'm gonna innovate this thing. Like, it was more a means of survival. And when people started learning how to be smarter in their survival, then there were more things to think about, like, oh, okay, my machine is actually not working as well, I'm going to work on my machine more, you know. So I think that's just it. Like, what comes with innovation comes with the specialization. Like, it just becomes more complicated, there's more things to think about, there's more moving pieces in the machine, let's say, if the world was a machine. So I think it just makes sense to, when we evolve, that there's going to be more specialization. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure either.
People are becoming more and more machine-like. And
Yeah,
machines are programmed to do one task. Humans are supposed to look at the big picture, connect the dots from different fields, and make assessments, think critically. But now it's like back in the day, the greatest philosophers were all general thinkers. They just think about anything that requires logic, and they have left a tremendous amount of literature that are very valuable to us even today. But now if you tell people I'm a general thinker, people are going to be like, what? What's your job? Oh, I just pursue, intellect, and I try to think about everything. Yeah, but what do you do though? It's
yeah.
like people have a very like,
Like, what
oh
is a philosopher actually? Like, they just think about things, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like people have this like they use their job to define themselves, and they use job to define others. Like, this is what I do, this is and what do you do?
Yeah, that's normally how it goes, unfortunately. Well, actually, no, it depends on the person.
I think, but this worrisome because what if in the future there are something that's very obvious that's going to pose a threat to entire human species, but nobody's seeing it because everybody's specialized, just like flat earth. Flat earth, if you think in a general term, it's very obvious that it is wrong. But what if something like that will happen in the future, and it will pose a great threat to humans, but nobody will be able to see it because everybody has this blinder on. It's like, this is my job, and this is the only thing I'll look at, and this is the only thing I can do, and nothing else matters to me.
Mm,
Stay ignorant.
and not necessarily, because, like, I think it's natural for humans to be genuinely curious about things. So even though one is specialized in something or a subject matter, let's say, it doesn't mean that they're not curious about other subject matters that could cross between what they want to, like, deep dive learn in. So I mean, personally, I don't think that's too much of an issue. Uh, but maybe in the long run, if it becomes too specialized. But also, I feel like maybe that's why the school system is set up the way it is right now, just so that everyone can have, or at least like kids could have basic knowledge on things. Like, there's a foundational knowledge that you should know.
But there are people who are good at math, there are people who are good at English, there are people who are good at all of these things. But how many people are good at assembling all these skills together and use them in a synergized way? Like, all you after you learn math, after you learn all of these things, you only learn it in a way that you can only do questions structured in a quiz manner, in a quiz format. you don't connect the dots between the math you learn in class to how to build a house, or to how to build a phone, or like any of that. Like GSP was on the podcast, and he said he's one of the greatest fighter in history. And he said he held up his phone, and he was like, I have no idea how they build this. I have no idea how this works. Because there are people who specialize building the phone. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And that, in some ways, that's making people dumber and dumber.
Yes and no again. I really don't think this is the case, just because um not everyone can know everything either. That's the thing. Like there's some things that we just wouldn't even think about, and I don't think it's necessary for one to know.
Let me give you an example. Okay. Let's say there are two robots. One robot can do just basic tasks, but they can do any task. You can send a robot to buy you groceries. You can send a robot to wipe the floor. They do an okay job, but everything you tell them, they can understand. Versus you have a washing machine. It does the best washing job in the world, but all it can do is wash your clothes. Which robot do you think is smarter?
They do different things. What do you want to get out of the robot?
Yeah, I think the robot that can do a wide range of basic tasks is smarter and has more potential. I'm worried that people are more and more becoming washing machines and toasters and microwaves. They only do one thing, and they can only understand one thing.
I like
In the
yes and no
same,
again.
and then the exact same format too. If you
No.
just switch up the format, they don't understand it.
No, because a lot of the times now in workplaces, we're seeing cross-functional training. And also, there are cases where you go to university, for example, you get a degree, and then you get a job that has nothing to do with your degree. So at the end of the day, the person who has a degree in one subject matter and then is in a different industry than what they studied, I would say they would know more about both compared to someone who had a linear career path into what their subject matter is. So no, I don't totally agree with you on that, because there more and more now we're seeing people be cross-functional in what they do. I think YouTubers is a big one. YouTuber knows how to work the camera, knows how to design their background, knows how to edit their videos. Like they know everything.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. Is YouTubers are good at a wide range of things, and they can connect the dots between editing
Yeah.
and making a thumbnail and marketing and all of these things. That's why they're, in my mind, they are better and superior than the Hollywood people, even though they make huge productions, but each person only knows how to do one thing, and they're so stuck in it. And then they're more ignorant about everything else, but ignorance makes you more arrogant. They're When they're more arrogant, they're less willing to learn, and they become more ignorant.
Mm,
you know it's
I'm
yeah,
not
just
sure if that's necessarily correlated, because there are people who are like big time famous people, whatever, who are still humble, let's say. But yeah, I just
because as a general thinker myself, I think there's a tremendous benefit in being able to critically think no matter the subject. And like, this might sound arrogant for me to say, but I think I can go into any field that I've never had formal training in and learn it in a few days and give them advice that can help improve people who are in the field for over 10 years.
Mm. I
because
think
because I can
that
comb through the logic in their method and help them. And
maybe,
like, yeah, but
but
like,
not necessarily true, because it depends on what part of the problem or the subject that you're trying to give advice on. If you're trying to give advice on something that is a different perspective and something again that their tunnel vision on that they totally miss, then sure. But if you're talking about something that they um like practice on hand, like you can't tell a surgeon, I'm going to show you how to do this a better way if you actually haven't been practicing, surgery for 10 plus years, 20 even more. You know what I mean? Like it depends on what it is.
or just an example, you you had your teeth removed.
Mm-hmm.
Your dentist has had all the training in the world. You don't know anything about that, but you can still comb through the logic and say, "Oh, I don't need that treatment." I think this way is better. Like,
Yeah, but that's all also because I'm genuinely curious about like what treatment I'm going to receive, and I look for those answers elsewhere. So I don't just rely on one source of information. Like I think I can take responsibility of myself to do that. Yeah, then having to rely on one source. I don't think that is fair for anyone just looking at one source to base their decisions on, because they lose all the other perspectives that you otherwise might not see or have or whatnot. You know what I mean?
but
Like,
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. You're applying a general thinking logic. You're like, oh, like this person gave me this information. Let me see what the other experts are saying, and let me assess and compare and use a logical way. Even though I'm not expert in the field, but I can assess what the experts are saying and comb through the logic and figure out what's true and what's not.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's
Before,
a
you weren't like this, if you
yeah, but I
remember.
yes, okay, yes,
You're
I've grown in that way.
you're what you say before was, oh, they know better than me, just let them do their job. They're the experts, so why do I even ask questions? And that's, I think, more and more of the norm for most people, and that's what I'm worried about. Because as a general thinker myself, I find that it's more and more difficult to find people that can relate to me, and there are less and less of like me in the world.
Um, yeah, I think that I acquired that though because not that I'm a general thinker. That's the thing. I don't think about things necessarily because just out of the blue. Like I think there's a reason for why I think more broadly now. Again, it's because I'm taking responsibility. I don't think that like one source and basing my decisions on one source is responsible, because I know that if there's one side of something, there's also the other side. So I have to make sure that both sides, um, after I evaluate both sides, that I can make the most sound decision for myself. And I only say that because also everyone is different. So what one person goes through and their experience may be different to how I react to things and what I go through. So that's why I think that thinking for myself is most important, because not everyone is the same. I think that's really why. And then the other thing is that I think I'm genuinely curious about what's going on around me now and how everything around me affects me. And this decisions I make really make an impact. As I make it's like a not a domino effect, but like there's a um like a consequence to everything. So I get to choose what my consequence is. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but that what you just described is a general thinker's principle.
I guess I just don't define it that way. I guess I just define it as I'm critically thinking and I'm taking responsibility for myself. So, like, because before I wasn't like this, like you said, I just go with the flow, like whatever, someone make it. I think that's just pure laziness. Like, in all honesty, I think I was just being lazy. I wanted other people to think for me. I wasn't thinking for myself. At the end of the day, bottom line, that's what it was.
Yeah,
And
there's
another part of it too is because I'm scared. Like, I didn't think for myself because I was scared. I didn't think I could make the right decisions. I wasn't confident to make the right decisions for myself. So,
yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah.
Is there's less and less of people that think like that now. People are thinking, oh, I'm a salesperson. Let me do sales. Let me leave the law uh, uh, um, case to the lawyers. Let me leave the tax to the accountants, and let
Yeah.
me leave the house buying decisions to the realtors.
Pure laziness.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know like what else to say to that, because
Let me leave
it's
the
true.
let me leave the medical decisions to the doctors. And the doctor, when they say wear a mask, they wear a mask. The next day, they say don't wear a mask, they don't wear a mask. They
Well,
don't.
okay, so that's different now then.
Anyways,
Like I
let's transition with that to the king of podcast, Joe Rogan,
I commend Joe Rogan.
because Joe Rogan was in an attempt to get canceled on Spotify. I don't know the exact details, but
Well, it's still unfolding, so we don't know what's going to happen yet.
yeah, but essentially he interviewed some doctors and they said some things that people say wasn't true, and they try to um, cancel him because they say he poses as a public health misinformation. He spreads misinformation.
You know what's funny though
Yeah.
is that there's so many doctors with opposing visions or opposing opinions or opposing research. So at the end of the day, what these people saying that all peer reviewed articles or whatever is misinformation because one doctor said something different than the other. Like, different practices have different opinions on how they want to practice.
But
um
but Joe Rogan's a huge platform.
okay.
Um, like there could be 10 doctors that disagree,
Yeah.
but when he highlights one doctor, that's the only doctor you see. Even though
If he
they,
highlights it, sure.
well, when he has them on, he's highlighting them, right? Like
No.
if you have a person on CNBC or like the news channel, you think this person represents the entire field, but he or she doesn't. But then that's the only opinion you hear.
Yeah. Kind of like the stock market when when they have someone on CNBC and they're talking about their opinions on the stock market is going up, the stock market is going down, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I think that this incident is very interesting because I like everything that happens that will challenge my thinking. And my thinking
we know that.
and my thinking has always been there should be freedom of speech. Everybody should be able to get their opinion out, and the right one will eventually win out.
Mhm.
But this incident challenged my thinking because I heard somebody say Joe Rogan has such a big platform, and you can't just say, "Oh, you go do your own research. Don't just listen to me." We know that that's not how influence works. That's how the entire advertisement, industry is built. The biggest industry right now in North America is the advertising industry. That's how Google and Facebook and all of them are built upon. If you say that, then how come advertising work? If you show someone advertising, everybody can keep a level head, they go do their own research, they look at all the alternatives, then nobody would get influenced by advertising and buy whatever is shown in front of them. But that's not how it works, right? Like something's shown in front of you more times, you're more likely to accept it. And that's what
Yes, that's fair.
Joe Rogan wasn't intentionally doing that, but that's what he was doing. So should he have more accountability for the amount of influence he has?
Is it his responsibility?
Yeah, well, I don't think this problem has ever existed in history, because no one in history has had this much attention and influence. Back in the day, you write on the newspaper and not everybody reads the newspaper, and it spreads over 3 months or something. It's like takes a long time, and now everybody believe it, or now everybody get it. And there be different people that read different newspapers, and they get information from here and there. But now it's getting more and more centralized. Most people go to Joe Rogan, and whether they see him as an information source or not, but they're like actively digesting it. And just touch on what you just said is like, one of the solutions he said was, now I'm gonna invite more and more doctors on to give you different opinions. So like 10 doctors disagree, I'm gonna invite all 10 of them on to express their thoughts, and you can decide yourself. But the problem with that is not many people are trying to do that. Like not many people are going to Joe Rogan be trying to get in all the medical information in the world and make a judgment themselves, and they're going to follow up on every episode. They're just going to jump into whichever episode looks interesting and going to watch that one out of the 10.
Yeah, but also who goes to Joe Rogan just for information? I think that's pretty silly if someone really actually does that.
Well, regardless of what their intention is when they go on Joe Rogan, but the fact is Joe Rogan's now getting more views, more attention than all of the news outlets combined. So people are giving him the attention, and when people hear it, just like advertising, you can say, I choose what I want to buy. Advertising don't affect me. But then the fact is, advertising's work. They show in front of you over and over, and a large percentage of people will buy. That's how they make money, and that's why they would put billions into advertising. And so many people are watching Joe Rogan, and it's his opinions heard over and over in front of so many people. That's like a lot of people commend Joe Rogan on correcting his mistakes. I do too.
For
That's
this
one of
case,
the things I like about him. But the problem is, again, he make a mistake on one episode. On the next episode, he says, "Oh, that was wrong." But not everybody follows every episode and listen to every second. So the people who got the wrong information in the first episode, what if they never listen to the second episode? They will keep this wrong information in their head the whole time.
What do you think about this whole thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it challenged my thinking. That's one of the things we talk about this about our channel. No matter whether people like it or not, no matter YouTube will promote us or not, we will keep being ourselves. If we can be our authentic selves, we don't want to be on here. But the problem comes, but for us, we can be our authentic selves. But what if one day we have that huge amount of influence, and being our authentic selves could potentially hurt other people? What should we do?
Well, my question would be, why would it hurt other people?
Because right now, when we're small YouTubers, our side is just one of the sides of opinions or thinking, right? If each YouTube channel gets 1,000 views, then most likely each person is hearing all opinions across 10 channels and they're making their own decisions. But when your platform dominates everybody, then 90% of people who listen to you only listen to you. Then by you presenting your side of the argument, you're thinking, oh, you can go to the other side and listen to the other side too, but the other side only gets 1,000 views. So obviously that's not balanced. It will be like there are two doctors debating what's the best solution here. And one doctor has 1,000,000 subscribers, the other has 1,000. Even if intellectually they're presenting the same quality argument, the one with 1,000,000 subscribers is going to dominate the debate and have more mind share in people. And the argument will always lean toward his side. And if he's wrong, he's going to potentially hurt a lot of people. You see what I'm saying?
Do you have a conclusion to that? To like, is it Joe Rogan's responsibility?
Damn, I don't know. Like I said, it's like my
You're
stance.
still stumped. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm just more like, whoa, like this really threw a wrench in my thinking. Before this, I was very hardcore on everybody should be yourself for don't no matter what, and everybody should have freedom of speech to say everything you want. But now this threw a wrench in there that makes it convoluted. If I was in his position, I wouldn't know what to do. And that's what he said also, that he was like, I didn't know when I started this, I was going to have this much power and influence. I was just trying to talk to my friends. Like I was just trying to have fun. And then now, like I have so much power and I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to do with this. And nobody has had that much power in history. Like no platform was this dominant before. Like what are you supposed to do? Like when you were all on the same level, you're debating, you're having an argument. You can go hard at it. You can be confident. You can state your argument because it's your job to do that to the best of your ability, and it's on your what do you call it? On your opposing side to state their best argument. But this is like when you go to a debate, you are the only one who have a microphone, and your opposing side doesn't have a microphone. They can only use their natural voice. Then
So here's my thing though.
then everybody's only listening to the one-sided argument. It's not your fault, but that's the result. So what are you supposed to do?
For me, it's a give and take. So for the person giving, which is Joe Rogan, let's say, because he's speaking on the podcast, it's up to the audience or the listener to take. It's the same goes for if someone is giving advice. Yeah, you don't. Everyone says take advice or take whatever with a grain of salt, and I think that goes for everything. So or a trusted source or like a trusted person that gives you like life advice or whatever, like you have to trust that person to be able to take everything in that they say. So in this case, I mean, as much, sure, maybe it's Joe Rogan's responsibility to kind of talk about, how he affects everyone and their thinking. Sure. But also for the listener, it's also their responsibility to to evaluate what they're taking in. That's what I'm saying, is that I for sure don't listen to a beauty guru or whatever and like, oh yeah, because she's the most popular one, she has the most influence on YouTube, I'm going to go with whatever she says. Because at the end of the day, what's funny is that there's so much backlash as well. As much as they have influence, they also have backlash from the people who are critical thinkers and know that, for example, maybe this YouTube guru person, beauty guru person, whatever, um, who knows all about makeup and is creating their makeup line, for example, actually doesn't know what they're doing, or they've outsourced to someone else and it's not their own product that they're making themselves in-house, let's say. Like it's up to the audience who's taking it. And I think it's just like, it's so funny, or I find it even comical that Joe Rogan is getting this type of backlash. Like, why it's only now a thing because he has influence, right? But Trump had influence. He had so much backlash. Like, I think it's just natural. I don't think it's something that, oh my God, he's going to take over the whole thing now, or he's going to really influence all these people in a negative way. Like, no, I think people really just need to think for themselves. Like, I don't think he's doing any harm. I think he's just trying to uncover a conversation, and that's it. And the remedy that he has of talking to other doctors, I think that makes sense. And then it's up to the listener if they want to follow the whole thing or not. Like, I don't know. I think it's just silly.
I agree that Joe Rogan has all the good intentions, but the problem is it will be like the equivalent of Microsoft creating Microsoft Teams and put it on all Android device and say, oh, if you want to use Zoom, you can still use Zoom. It's up to you. But then it's the Microsoft, the Android platform, the Windows platform is so powerful that it is an unfair advantage.
Not at all.
What?
I don't think that they can just like, oh, it's so powerful. Like, you know, sure, yes, I can back Microsoft up with their Office suite and all the software that they have. Sure, okay, in that case. But also, there are people who don't like Microsoft Teams. That's what I'm saying. There's always an opposing thing. Like, there's always, and there's a thing between like, what is better, Apple iOS or Windows software? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always, it depends on what you
Well,
how you react to it.
but the
Because
problem is iOS and Android are equally powerful. But what if you're individual?
no, some will argue that Windows is more powerful because you're not subject to, you can run Linux or something like that on Windows. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but basically Mac or Apple is like a Fisher Price in terms of like nerd geek world, like those who are developers. It depends on what you are looking to do with that product, software, or information. So again, it's up to the audience. What are they looking to do with the information that they are taking in? And who is subject to
But
say that they are only allowed to listen to Joe Rogan?
they're it's but they are like that's the it's like
Well,
oh
then that's on them. Like, why is it a problem to everyone else? Everyone can make their own decisions in life. What's it to them?
like
That's
okay
my
then
question. That's really my question. For example, if someone wants to vote for Trump compared to whoever else is the president, I don't even know. I'm not into politics, then why not? Who cares?
well, that's a free choice.
Exactly. It's a free choice for someone to be ignorant or not. Like, I don't see what the big deal is. I think, like, sure, he has influence, but at the end of the day, if it's really not doing harm to anybody, by all means. Like it's like someone walking around naked. Like do you know, but then if there's a policy, like if there's a policy behind how Joe Rogan is sharing information, then he should confine to the policies in place. If there's no policy, then what's the problem? It's similar with like someone walking
Well,
around naked. No
because
one can really walk around naked, actually. You'll get like
well, because
disturbance or whatever.
because
Like
all of the policies are evolving and they're making it as they go, and they're just debating this. If they lean one way or the other, they're going to create a policy. Like it's not a, just as an example, back in the day you can advertise and market cigarettes on TV and whatever, and then later on they have decided it is harmful to people, so they stopped the advertising. But then by your logic, you support them to continue to advertise. It's up to you, to the person who's watching the commercials, to do your own research and not smoke.
I think it's a given that smoking is not good. Like I think there's enough research to show like there's actually a side that it sways. So
Yes,
in this case, I'm not sure even what like Joe Rogan put up or what he discusses with these doctors. Like I don't know, I don't consume that kind of information. I think it's irrelevant to me. That's what I'm saying.
but
Like I don't,
do you
I'm not a
agree that,
consumer of this content like that. And if there's something that I'm genuinely not interested in Joe Rogan, because I like listening to Joe Rogan, I just tune out. So going back to the cigarettes thing, if I'm not genuinely not interested in cigarettes or like an advertisement or whatever, then I don't know, it just really doesn't influence me. I don't know. At this point with this topic, it's like, I don't know.
but it, this has happened, right? Like cigarettes were free to advertise before, and they have been banned, and now the amount of people who smoke dramatically decreased. So do
Yeah,
you,
and we also know from research how many people, go through trauma or whatever from cigarettes. Like
yeah, but my question is, do you think less people in the world smoke cigarettes is a good thing?
me personally, because I don't like it. I have a personal stance on it because I made my own decision. Like
No,
I'm
but
not
this,
just ignorant saying I'm like
no,
doesn't matter
but
to me.
remove yourself from it. Do you think a world where 1 million people smoke versus a world where only 100,000 people smoke, which world is a better world?
I don't know. Some people need to smoke, and that's why I let them please smoke. If there's a situation, just do your thing. Like I don't care, just as long as you're not around me, you're not influencing me. I don't care. You know what I mean? You do you, and I will do me on this side. You can go on that side. Like I think that's why I'm so indifferent to this because like I just don't consume that kind of like I don't know, it's not a
I don't either, but I can see the real impact it's having on people, though.
it is, but then at the end of the day, sure, you know what? Make the impact. Later on, it'll weed out. Like it'll weed out like what's happening. Like if one believes in it's kind of like gossip, in the workplace. You like one person says that this other person in the workplace is bad, and then everyone else don't know they like this person, and that person win everyone's hearts. At the end of the day, over time it'll show like what behaviors this person that doesn't clash with that other person that doesn't like them. Do you following me? Because I'm just using persons in this example, but
But
over time the bad things will get weeded out. So
but as an
it's
example, in your workplace, if your coworkers talk bad to each other behind each other's backs, it's a problem, but then it's not a big enough problem to get noticed. But if it's your boss.
Oh, if it's a mastermind, it's enough for someone to get noticed.
No, but I'm saying like it's a lot more inappropriate for a high level authority to openly insult someone.
Yeah,
Do,
of
do,
course.
do you follow? Like if you're on the same level, both of you are the same level worker, and then you talk back to each other, it's not ideal, but it's not a, it doesn't have as dramatic of negative impact as if the highest level uh, of ranking person insult a lower level person, because the higher ranking person has more of authority and power, and it's uneven, it's not fair. And that's what's happening with Joe Rogan, because he has more power and more of a platform than everyone else, and now it's becoming unfair.
There's misinformation everywhere.
Yeah, but
That's what I
he,
said. It's like people who watch the news.
okay, forget about misinformation. Right now, Joe Rogan is the biggest source of information. That's a fact. Forget about it. He should be or he shouldn't be. People should go listen to him or not. That's a fact. It's happening that he is the biggest source of information right now. Should he behave accordingly? Or should he just keep on doing him? It doesn't matter. Like, you're the one who's supposed to drop out and listen to someone else. It's not my fault.
He can do whatever he wants. It's like the news. Like I said, it's like the news. The news channels and distribution are the biggest channels where people get their information from.
No,
And
no.
whether it's good or bad, you can tune in or you can tune out. It's up to you. And a lot of people tune out because there's so much negativity on news. You see what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
not
I
a
think. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason why Joe Rogan became an information source, is because all of these news are so biased and so negative. People tune out, and people need a source of information. There's nobody else like around that's giving information like Joe Rogan.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying though, is that why is it so like controversial now when this has been happening for years? Like the news outlets, journalists, like all of this stuff has been happening. Then why back then, when the doctor goes on CNBC, for example, and then says one thing, does another thing, are they not scrutinized the way that Joe Rogan is? Why is no one saying, oh, CNBC, you said the wrong information? Or
because
like,
because at least there's Fox News, and there's I don't know other news channel, but they're like different news channels that say different things against each other. With Joe Rogan, it's just Joe Rogan. He
no, there's so
overpowers
many people
everybody.
who can go against him as well. The news can go against him. So if he's, for example, if he's really spreading misinformation and then, oh, people are so wronged by this, and then there's a higher powers thinking that that's not right, then fix it on your side and see what happens. But the fact that Joe Rogan already stepped up to say like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, my fault, my bad. Like let me get a rounder view of the conversations that I'm having. Great. At least he did something to correct it. Whereas like, oh, everyone's hating on like this news, channel because they're pro Trump. No one said anything about that. Why? Is it because it's a corporation and Joe Rogan is one person that they can cancel? Like literally, I feel like maybe, yeah, sure, Joe Rogan can get canceled, but can CNBC get canceled? Can Fox News get canceled?
We're kind of talking about two different things, but you know, you're talking more specifically about Joe Rogan. I'm talking about more like, when one platform gets so powerful, what should you do about it?
Oh,
It's like kind of like a business having a monopoly. Like, for example, Google has a monopoly in search, and there's a debate on should you allow them to monopolize search? There's a side that's saying, yes, you should, because you want one search engine to have all the results, so it's better experience for everybody and it's cheaper, you know? So like, I don't know which side is right, but I'm just saying, like, in Joe Rogan's case, should you allow, or like, should you kind of create policies to make sure the biggest platform has to behave in a certain way, or should you have to like create another platform that's just as big to provide diverse opinion like ours, or something? Like, should you do something about it, or should you just like let the market decide? Kind of like what you're saying is like saying, oh, if a business monopolize, they're the only one dominating the market, it's okay, people are picking them, you should let the market decide. And if you don't want them to monopolize, you create a better product. You know, that's what you're saying.
Kind of. It's like there's actually more of an opportunity there, because if let's say Joe Rogan is getting so big with all of this stuff, what's to say that someone else who goes against what he's saying can't get as big as him, because other people see both sides of the story? Like, I'm just curious
thinking
about that. Similar with Elon Musk saying
thinking
that,
like a true entrepreneur.
because like Elon
Every
Musk has
problem is an opportunity.
no, but Elon Musk said this too. He was like, well, other people are, kind of hating on them for hating on Elon for the decisions that he makes or how he wants his company to go. But like he said, what's to say it's like this is an opportunity for other people to impact the world just as much as him by doing their own thing, and then they could be just as good because their Tesla is not working, or Elon Musk is not working on those areas that impact the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's a I don't know. Maybe I just like I'm so different now. I don't get bothered by this like stuff. I think it's so like semantics. Like, we're really focusing on this thing. I mean, it's a podcast after all. It's not a peer reviewed source, you know. Sure, a doctor can be you know, credible, but at the same time there are doctors who aren't credible. So, like, which one is it?
Yeah,
And also, that's why I say people get weeded out, because over time it just shows.
that's the problem, is there's, to get to the truth, you need to look at like 10 or 20 different source of information. But now it's like a monopolized Joe Rogan deciding who he put the spotlight on. So that's like why it's a problem. But
I just think
maybe
it's up
maybe
to the people who choose to just watch Joe Rogan. Like,
yeah,
fuck, I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, maybe it could be like what you said, is like over time, maybe other YouTube platforms, maybe the new normal could grow as big and provide a diverse opinion, you know, then it wouldn't be, because this has never happened in history, so nobody knows what should do, like what will happen, like will he stay as the most powerful for a long time, or will other people catch up, or will he fall back down and nobody would have a as powerful platform ever again? Like nobody knows, right? So
Well, either way, it sways. I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's just something that needs to happen.
yeah,
So I
you're
don't
just
have.
you're
Hmm?
just hardcore pro freedom of speech. you're you're a Texan.
No, not necessarily either. I don't think I am like, you know, like if someone were to say, "Oh, freedom of speech, I'm gonna go corrupt all these kids' minds." Like, I don't think that's right either. But like, it's just how one goes about it. I don't know. It's like I think it's like so rare for these things to happen.
Yes, it's very interesting to see this unfold. It's the we're in the podcast space, and he's the king of podcasts.
Yeah.
Before, if we weren't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't even follow this because I couldn't care less about who gets canceled, who doesn't. This whole cancel thing is like has always been kind of useless to me. I
Yeah, I don't, yeah,
I
I
forgot
don't,
who said this, but somebody said everybody should get canceled once for you to realize how not scary it is. The next day you go on YouTube, you keep posting your videos, nothing changes.
yeah, for the most part, because if an audience likes you because you're being you and you made a mistake, everyone makes mistakes. And I think it depends on how you go about that mistake. So that's why I think Joe Rogan will still end up on top because he took responsibility, he has accountability, and he, highlighted what he could do better, or he just acknowledged his fault, let's say, because there's so much backlash with how he goes about his podcast. That's great.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
think
like I
there's
said, I think that's an opportunity.
yeah, I think there's a lot of value in debating on what's a better way of doing things. But all of this canceling somebody talk is just a waste of energy.
Yeah, and those,
Even
like I
if
said,
you
it's just the herds.
even if you cancel Joe Rogan, the next person just there, he's just gonna get replaced by the next person, and it's the
Yeah,
same thing is gonna happen over again.
yeah,
But there is value in talking about if you have this much influence, should you stay away from talking about certain topics, that have a huge impact on people's health, like or you know like uh, like for example, if Joe Rogan says something or talk about something that triggers depression in mental ill people, and you can see the numbers going up, you wouldn't be saying, oh, it's your freedom to tune off. It's still Joe Rogan has that influence, he got to use it responsibly. But that's right now, that line is not very clear where it is. Or it could be like, you should talk about mental health, you should talk about health, medical knowledge, but the way you do it is have a round table of 10 different doctors at the same time. Or there's like so many different ways he can do it like much better, because like I said, nobody has experienced this. Nobody like can just talk 4 hours a week and then like 10 million people listen every week. Like this has never happened, and nobody knows what the consequence is. So
yeah,
everybody's trying to figure it out, and if people get onto the side where they're like, oh, I want to help to figure out what's a better way of doing things, and that's very valuable discussion. But if people are just jumping on to be offended and try to cancel people, that's like, it's a waste of time.
yeah. And like, it's like comedy and people who talk about controversial things in comedy. It's like good that they do because it's like it opens up discussion. It like helps people think about a different side maybe they didn't think of before. I think Joe Rogan is just doing that. And that's what makes, like, again, that's what makes his podcast good, is because in a way it's kind of controversial. In a way it's really honest and it's raw. Like, um yeah, I don't know.
For comedy, I have a completely different stance.
But you know what I mean? Like if
For
it's,
comedy, to me, as long as the joke is funny, anything goes.
yeah,
I don't
that's
care if it's true, it's not true, hurts
that's the
people
way
or
it
doesn't
should
hurt
be.
people. If it's funny, it goes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
someone can make a Chinese joke. As long as it's funny.
Comment that racist joke below. Yeah.
Andrew Schultz and Akash was talking about this, the lady who has like a speech impediment. And then they were like, did she get into like an accident? And then no one wants to say it. And then there's someone said a car accident because Asians are known for bad driving.
Yeah. That's
Anyways,
that's funny to me. as long as jokes are funny, they're not offensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Although your
it.
jokes are fully offensive.
Depends on
Just
who you talk to.
straight jabs.
Not to me.
Retired boxer takes jabs in different way. Anyways, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. So now we know that, you have to think for yourself. Don't be listening to these herds.
Whoa.
Even like, okay, one last thing is sure, we talk a lot about Tesla, but we also look at like Ford, GM, like whatever electric car company who makes electric cars. Like it's not only Tesla. Tesla is just dominating the market because of Elon's vision and anyways, I can just go off on this right now, but if there's nothing else, we'll save that story for another episode. And yeah, just like I said, just think for yourself. Just see what's out there other than just one source. Anyways, don't be normal, be yourself. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.